Hey folks, welcome to the recap sequence. We're back with Brent O'Hara, and as promised, last episode, we are going to recap Echo, which was a shorter run than most of the offerings on Disney Plus, with at 5 episodes. But
Yeah.
um,
There was a lot of things that felt different about this one compared to the other ones that we've watched and discussed with our Marvel Senior Cinematic Movie correspondent, Mr. Brent O'Hara.
yeah. So Brent, what were your thoughts on it? I'm just going to give my quick summary. As it kind of to me was like a one shot. If there is such a thing in the MCU, and I'm
Actually,
not
that's a good way of describing it.
I'm just not entirely sure how much more connection there's going to be going forward. And it almost to me just seemed like, well, we just introduced this character in Hawkeye, and we
Hmm.
should really explain ourselves. What did you think, Brent? How do you feel that this contributes to the 32 plus, a dozen films and television shows that Disney's kind of put out there?
Well, honestly, at first I did not know what to expect,
Yeah.
and I came into this not really knowing what to expect. But having watched what they did with it, I really enjoyed it, and the different aspects of what they told I thought were really cool. Like when we were talking about What If a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about that particular uh, Kahori episode, right?
Yeah.
And how they handled the origins of their people and in a Marvel way. Well, boy, didn't they do that here with this one,
Yeah.
and really turn this into kind of an interesting Marvel take on something that you weren't I wasn't expecting them to go there to the degree that they did. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. I was great to see a Marvel take on you know on the native people's origin history, with the cave and the characters, and the cave collapsing and them coming to life on Earth, the clay kind of breaking off of them. And I know I'm getting into the details here now, but
Sure.
really
Yeah.
Let
you're
go
looking
for
for
it.
initial. but,
Quite.
but
Yeah.
all to say, yeah, like I thought that I think this finds its place nicely in amongst the Marvel lore by adding something significant with this character that we saw in Hawkeye and we're introduced to. But for a show that no one really asked for, it's almost like a Guardians of the Galaxy all over again. Like no one asked for Guardians of the Galaxy and no one knew what they were getting, but they knew that they had a story to tell that could be really intriguing. And so, they wrote "You're welcome" right on the poster when they showed us the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
I find that this is kind of similar. They knew that they had something. They knew they had a story that they could tell, and doing it in an interesting way. And there's lots of interesting things about this show that we can talk about. But by the end of it, I thought that this was a really good show.
I'm with you. So the start really threw me. I wasn't quite sure what we were getting into because I didn't know anything about Echo until we saw this character appear in Hawkeye. I know right after Hawkeye we said, okay, yeah, there's plans to do a show. I kind of just
It glossed.
I filed it
Yeah.
under Echo. Coming Marvel has another thing, I guess, and I didn't really give it a whole lot of thought. So yeah, when they opened with the right off the bat with the mythology or the history, the rich history of the people that essentially made its way, bubbled to the surface by about the fourth episode, or sorry, third, when Maya, takes on these powers, so that explanation comes into force. And then, there was I guess the fight scene where it really kind of came out that she's fighting with her ancestors that have kind of traversed these, and it's not a multiverse at this point. What is it now? Where are we going now?
This just seems
Oh,
like it was a lot. It dovetailed with Kiori nicely, I found.
yeah, right. Very spiritual,
Mhm.
very, to the story of the ancestors and how your ancestors keep an eye on you through your life. And we discover that this is Echo's family. She's a direct descendant from these ancestors at different levels. Like, we see those stories at the beginning of each episode. We get, the very beginning, and then like at 1200, where they're playing, cricket. Or
Right.
not cricket, sorry, lacrosse is what they're
Yes.
playing there.
Yeah.
An early iteration of that, and then 1800s, and then so we're getting these pieces of their ancestors, and what a neat way to tell this tale, that your ancestors remain with you, echoing. And they create this context around the name Echo. This is there's some variation from the comics.
Okay.
They took this character on a little bit of a different. They took a different spin on the character, and they brought in these ancestral aspects to the character and her power set. So that was quite interesting. I know that the variations from the original character can always cause some problems with the fans if it's not what they're expecting. But they worked with the Choctaw nation, and crafted these additions to the character so that that this relevance could be created. And don't we have some interesting relevance for this character across on a number of fronts? There's this connection with the native population and culture, but also because she's, she needs to sign to talk. Everybody's signing in the show, and I've seen some pretty neat videos of kids and families coming up and signing and just showing their appreciation for what their experience was with this show. Seeing that, seeing people like them, representation, and etc. At the same time, I wondered, boy, did the kids watch these fight scenes, because they're pretty violent. What do you guys think? How do you think compared to Daredevil?
That was the thing, is I liked how they went down that road, if you will, by emphasizing that she's deaf and has to sign. She's also an amputee, and this is a very different take from what we've seen already in the Marvel universe to this, and I thought that was a fantastic thing, because that kept me very much invested in wanting to see this, because really we only got a very snippet of it in the Hawkeye series. We figure, we don't know anything about her at that point. And to your question there, I thought the fight with Daredevil, I know a lot of people who watched that, and they said that redeemed the Daredevil character from the She-Hulk portion with it. I had no problems with that. I loved that scene with him with Daredevil and Echo going at it.
Thought so too, yeah. And that definitely felt a lot more like the Daredevil that we had in the Netflix shows than what we got. I mean, the She-Hulk appearance was kind of a silly take in it, tongue in cheek, and that was meant to be, but this is the serious Daredevil.
I do really like how they handled the timeline, in that they brought us right up to Hawkeye, essentially. They, from 1200 all the way, that whole journey, so that part really fit well, I guess, as far as making sense on where this character landed, and why are we watching this show now. So that getting that first episode out of the way, that kind of cleared the path to tell the story in Tamaha, what was going on, versus having to get into a whole lot of other origins. So I really liked that, and I loved that they were able to use scenes from Hawkeye, and to kind of bring this Daredevil scene in to kind of give that, she's been fighting alongside folks in Hell's Kitchen, and I gotta say, The ASL and like the subtitles, it did not affect the pacing of this at
No.
all. In fact, some of the coolest parts were when you were getting the sort of the hearing impaired sense, like how this stuff was going on in complete silence, and just the way that they set that tension. And I'm a soundtracks guy, so it's for me the audio is a major part of sort of how everything flows together, and to be able to introduce what they did and how they did it, there was the pacing of the show was really well done. I like how they moved along the story. Now we'll get into it a little bit about sort of there were some things that happened in the story, I guess, that I wasn't quite sure what the point of some of them were, but as far as like setting her up and demonstrating her powers and her fit in why are we watching this now? I thought they did a good job of just kind of getting that all lined up.
And I agree with you because I find that 5 episodes really worked
Yes.
for this. It wasn't dragged out like I find some of the Disney Plus series have, and not that I'm complaining about it, but for this was perfectly laid out for 5 episodes.
Yeah, I liked it too. And again, this is one of those, oh, this is interesting. They're dropping all 5 episodes and um all contributing to well, they're up to something here. This is not quite how they usually do things, so let's see how it goes. But yeah, like each episode, episode one, of course, being kind of that introduction and filling in the blanks as far as giving us getting us caught up to the now, and what happened in her history. And then, come episode two, she's doing a train heist. And
Yeah.
that's it. And that was quite exciting and really well done. And you're walking away from that going, oh, that was cool. That was great. And then, getting into the Kingpin and the seriousness of it. I thought that was really, really great. I wanted to just comment on you're mentioning the Hawkeye connection here, and just feeling like it's very appropriate in how they've used Hawkeye as the device to launch this character in particular, because at coming out of what we saw in the Hawkeye series, Maya's not a very nice person. She is she was trained from a child under the Kingpin. She is an assassin. She is she is a character with a dark history, and this is a redemption tale.
Can I point out though, Brent? I thought this was really. I knew nothing about Echo, so I went on. I've got the Marvel Encyclopedia, so I went and looked to see if she was in there. That portion of being trained by the Kingpin, that's right out of the comics. He kills her father, and he says, "Please look after my daughter," and he does. He takes her on. And I didn't realize that this was actually like comic lore.
Yeah, and the whole shooting him in the eye, that happened in the books. This is stuff that came out of the books, but I'm noting how we became attached to certain characters like Hawkeye and Black Widow with these dark pasts, but yet we learned on their path to redemption, them trying to get out of their circumstances so that they weren't being bad people anymore. They were trying to help. Hawkeye's tale has been all about, getting off your butt and doing the work that you need to do to fix, your the errors of your past. And and everybody that Hawkeye has helped and taken under his wing, with including Natasha and obviously and Wanda, and that's his story. And here we interestingly have again another such character with this on a redemption path from coming from a very dark place that you wonder, can you even redeem a person like this, just like Hawkeye and Natasha? And yet they have this adventure on their way to trying to do that. And isn't it interesting how that she comes back to her home and where her family is from, and then all of a sudden this connection with her, the spirit of her mom and the spirit of her ancestors are all there connected to her and are going to help her come from this place of pain to come to a better place. And isn't she even able to kind of take some of that and turn that onto the kingpin, which is super interesting too,
Mhm.
right? At the
Right.
very end. But
Yeah.
I am just liking how that all fits in with this these parts of Marvel stories of characters like this. Maya fits right in there, and with some interesting twists that they get to play on, as we've been talking about.
I mean, just to, full disclosure of my ignorance of the lore, I had no idea how much a Kingpin we were going to see. But I mean, based on her story, obviously that's a big part of it. I love that you bring Hawkeye into this and mention his role in the MCU is very understated when you think about him. He's the Archer, and everybody kind of, I don't know. He was never my favorite Avenger until like much further into things, and not to say he's my favorite, he's Iron Man, right? But he really is an important character in a lot of these threads. He's kind of converted people based on his own experience, and it was what he said. Which seems like such a simple thing to explain when he explained to Maya about how that you can be used. You're really good, but you can be used by somebody like that, and it just kind of flicked that switch in her brain, and everything changed from that point forward. So Hawkeye is a very transformational character, despite his own shortcomings and what people might think, oh, he's just the guy with the arrows. So
The Hawkeye series couldn't have done a better job of really highlighting that. I love that series. I think they
yeah.
did such a terrific job with that story, and I'm quite happy with this sort of stemming out of it and kind of continuing that type of story and leading us into Daredevil here, as that goes into production. But yeah, like Hawkeye, I feel very similarly, where my appreciation for all the way back to when we were discussing Hawkeye and his arc,
Yeah.
like right from the very first movies, and we're making these observations about this is where this guy's coming from, similar to the books, but look, this is the angle that they're focusing on. Boy, haven't they done a really
Yeah.
terrific job with this character's arc.
I would love to go back and redo redo his arc recap. There's a few things, we were right on that leading edge when we started the arc recaps. We did 20 of them, and then after another dozen films and TV shows, like there's so many big changes. Tony Stark is dead, for one, and then Hawkeye there was some pretty big revelations in Hawkeye's world that we never really got to. So just as a note for the future, we should really reboot our art recaps, knowing now what we know, or maybe at least supplement them with a little extra information, because the context of where we were very interesting, I guess. And as listeners, really, all you got to do is go to the recapsequence.com and put hashtag the arc recaps. Go listen to them all, and then you'll realize that so much can change in the span of I don't know x dozen number of films, but we really did some comprehensive deep dives into some really specific character storylines, and there was just so much more to come afterwards, and I'm certainly not disappointed, but everybody could use a part two, I think, at this point, because they didn't stop developing these super cool characters. And the other thing I didn't really kind of clue into until as we were getting towards the end of Echo is this is really kind of setting up into Daredevil and bringing in some of that the Netflix universe. So Echo is kind of bridging that gap between and doing it so in a way, like Disney Plus is really bridging that gap.
Yeah.
It's not even happening in the cinematic world.
Yeah, and I we don't really know if we're going to see any of Echo in Daredevil or not, because there's lots for them to do in the Daredevil series. I don't know how many episodes they've got planned.
Well, it's been
Current,
cut down now. Eh? They've
currently.
gone from, I think, 18 to 10 now is what they're saying.
Okay,
Oh,
so
Yeah.
that's significant.
that's a lot, and they've found that they, okay, we need more Punisher, we need more, we're don't cross Foggy off the list in the first episode. Let's keep
Yeah.
use these characters, and because that's what the fans want. They want these characters to come back, and so it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with Daredevil. But I don't know if Daredevil would be the next place that we see Echo. Maybe, but also maybe not. We might not see her until, will she make an appearance for Secret Wars? Will we
Is
see
she
her?
age worthy for the Young Avengers?
I wouldn't think so.
Okay.
That would not be my guess. No. But we have these street level characters that they're starting to bring in. Will New York be impacted by? Will New York street level characters be impacted by the stuff that they're doing with Blade and and some of the spooky side? Will we be getting a Midnight Suns of some sort? With some of those characters. It's going to be interesting to see. We know we'll see her again. This show went over really well, and there's been a lot of accolades for the show as far as how well it's received. And I'm going to be very, very curious. Are they going to do a season 2?
Well, so that raises a question then, Brent. You're saying the show was well received. Is it because it was a character none of us were really familiar about? Was it because Vincent D'Onofrio, we get the Kingpin in this, or was it because Disney Plus did this as 5 episodes, not the standard 8 to 10 that they were doing? And because we've talked about it, that there's been certain Disney Plus shows where there's some throwaway episodes almost that didn't feel like they needed to be in there, or they were just added to as filler.
Yeah, and interesting that Bob Iger comes back and telling everybody, like, look, you guys, you seem to have forgotten what your jobs were.
Yeah.
Go back, fix this, and get back to doing quality. And so we have a number of productions that were getting impacted by this, but yet this Echo stayed the same number, and we don't know that there were some updates. I know that there were some updates to the show, including apparently that they removed some scenes where they had the handprint, like the tattoo that's from the comics.
Mm-hmm.
That was taken out, and some of the things. But I think they had something that was quality by the time that they got through these 5 episodes and tidied them up and fixed them. They had a quality show, and they could feel confident that we're not going to do another production that's going to raise a bunch of eyebrows of like, Marvel's, seeming like they're losing it. Is this a phase 4 thing that's not going to work? Or, this was really well done. I found it was really well done, and each episode was really satisfying. And in spite of the heaviness of the fight scenes and some of the subject matter, namely, like, you see the Kingpin bringing out the violence of the Kingpin. You get to see a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I brought my family in to see this show, and everybody loved it, like a lot. Like everybody came away from this show, saying, I would rewatch this in a second. They really liked it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even though it's TVMA, and I don't know how to give that to them on their side of the Disney Plus account quite yet for them to be able to watch it, but it was too good for them not to be able to experience, and they really enjoyed it.
And that first episode really removed the need. Some of these show like the Marvels for is the best example I think of. Well, you really need to watch this and that and this and
Yeah.
that and that and then a little bit of Loki to really understand what's going on here. With this, they explain some things that it gave you some context, but you didn't have to see Hawkeye to understand this. You knew you learned who Maya was from a young age. They gave that origin. They did it all in a way that they used to do this. Marvel stuff before they had the web of interconnectivity of everything had a much simpler job in telling stories, so they didn't have to find these ways to kind of insert things in. So I think it was an easy watch in that respect. Like, because for me, again, I really know nothing about the character other than what I saw in Hawkeye. And really, I didn't really remember. Not that I didn't love Hawkeye and it wasn't memorable. It was just so long ago. But the that scene when he has that conversation with her that turns her, which is really basically the last 10 minutes of Hawkeye. That's it. That was all that I knew, but it was fine. I get in there. You see a little Daredevil. They're fighting. That never happened. That's cool. But like, you didn't have to see Daredevil to know who Daredevil
But I
was.
like how they link that in. So
Yes.
it's that grab, right? Oh, you want to see this because you already know who Daredevil is.
And yeah, and of course, buried in my ignorance, here I am thinking, oh no, she shot him in the face, and that's it. How are we ever going to have a Sinister Six? When is Spidey ever going to take on the Kingpin? I mean, we get that in the Spider-Verse, so I won't complain. But there were some things and then boom, there you go. You realize Kingpin is actually he's got a lot of screen time in this short 5 episode run.
I want to follow on something you just said though, that one of the things I liked most about this is, like you said, we don't know anything about Echo going into it other than what we'd seen in Hawkeye. And really, a lot of the other shows was we already knew the central figures, right? And then they're doing a short introduction of everybody that's sort of around them. This time, I mean, we got introduced to characters. Henry Blackcoat Chula, the grandmother, who I thought was fantastic.
He was great.
Scully was probably Scully and Biscuits were my two favorite
Biscuit.
guides there.
I did like this.
And these are characters we're all being introduced to them on top of Maya, and we're getting an idea of the history, very rich history in that family, as opposed to going, okay, we already know who Maya is, which we didn't. I didn't know any of this stuff.
Yeah, like the characters that they added, like Graham Greens,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scully. Oh, home run.
Yeah.
Home run.
Yeah.
He's so awesome. And it's like he's like the tinkerer, or like
Yes.
he's that character, the guy in the chair, as they've been talking about in some of these other shows that they introduced, that's a support character that but more.
Mhm.
I think he was fantastic.
Yeah.
And he's
Oh,
been
yeah.
in so many things over the
Yes.
years. Of course, he's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
But congrats for bringing him in.
Mhm.
And he was wonderful. And Chula as well, like the grandmother, I thought she was fantastic.
Yeah.
Though, and Biscuits, and just these characters
Yeah.
were terrific.
Yeah.
They were terrific characters, and it really, like, high appeal, bring you right in and make you feel that sense of family, but not just the sense of family, but in this case, a family that's connected
Mhm.
to to some dark characters, quote unquote family business, as they're calling it, and they're in some cases. And so they had some bad connections there, and they were connected right to the Kingpin. The
Yeah.
Kingpin is using them in their little Oklahoma town, for his crime purposes,
Mhm.
and they're all tied up in it. Oh, and it just makes for drama, right? So
Yeah.
there's lots of that, but I thought the characters were really, really
It's funny
terrific.
because that's back to the Kingpin stuff in the town. That's, to me, is background drama,
Yeah.
because there's all this family drama going on, with her best friend Bonnie, who's upset that she's never reached out to her, right? Like they literally were cut off when Maya and her father left
Mhm.
after the death of her mother. So you've got all this family drama that's there in the background. There's Wilson Fisk's drama.
Well, and it just and just tucked away back there is the criminal enterprise that the Kingpin sits atop of, and it's far-reaching. I love that. I love the train heist. It actually made me think of trying to, doing train heists in Grand Theft Auto. It was the same mechanics, right? And they, yeah, I thought they did a really good job of, like you said, the family business, the roller disco, like at the very small town where everybody knows each other, and at the end of the day, everybody has some kind of a connection or a way to get a word to somebody who is connected. So it's no big secret that there's organized crime operating there. And I will say Graham Greene must have had Marvel on his bingo card. And he's finally filled it like that.
He got the full card
he was
now, right?
hands down one of the, nothing makes me feel more comfortable watching a show I know nothing about than when he comes in. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be fine. Graham Greene's here. Everything's gonna be cool.
But but secrets. You
Yeah.
say secrets, and boy, this is a place that's got secrets. And you get the sense that the grandmother is going to talk to going to the roller derby,
Mhm.
and it says talking business.
Yep.
They've got some business to talk about. So but that's how they manage to incorporate this type of story, but at the same time, with talking to Scully, Maya's got her leg got chewed up by the train,
Okay.
and the power comes of the ancestors has come and saves her butt. And then when she's going to talk to Scully, like there's a little statue there, and he's like, yeah, your grandmother can tell you about Chaffa, these historical figures. And I loved how they tied that stuff all in, and how even when it comes to it was quite moving, the appearance of Maya's mom, appearing to her and explaining, you have these gifts that are being brought forth from your ancestors, and we got those little story bits. So they it was strategy and cunning. And, you get cunning from Tuklo, and you get strategy from Loak, and you have the ferocity of Chaffa, and you have these aspects that can be brought forward. So quite a balancing act, if you ask me, for them to balance this family that's gotten itself tied up in the underworld of crime, headed by the Kingpin, but then having this connection to the ancestors and tying it to this darkness that they're feeling because they're all in so much pain because of, well, the crime and how it impacted, and they lose family members. And then the grandmother's in a dark, dark place. Maya's in a dark place. And that darkness is all, rolling forward. The momentum of that darkness is rolling forward until they can get this healing, until there's this aspect of healing. Maya's mom was a healer. And now all of a sudden, Maya's connected to this healing. Maya's mom, we see her healing her heart. We see her healing her in the car when the mother died. So we're getting this like, oh, so there's been a there's been a metaphysical aspect to what's going on right from when her mother died in that car. She helped save Maya and healed her so that she could live. And then you have the discovery of this healing ability, and that Maya now has, and has introduced it to Wilson Fisk. And, he's like, what did you do? That was quite a turn. I I wasn't expecting
That
that
was
they
very
would.
powerful.
So
It
what does
was.
that what does that exactly mean? I had a couple of thoughts while all of this was kind of going, like, how these powers are passed along, like the woodpecker, for example, that keeps it, was healed, and then all of a sudden that's now a symbol and I don't know if it's the same woodpecker from 30 years ago or what, but there's some significance there. Does Kingpin possess anything now? So he's had I mean, forcibly had his pain removed. I'm told to let it go, and that has transformed him as a person and how he's going to run his empire. So we'll talk about that in a sec. But does he become imbued with any of this spiritual energy from this contact, or was that merely an act upon him?
I think it was more of an act upon him than anything. What
It,
we've
it's
known from the Wilson Fisk character.
Okay, all right.
it's an interesting question. It's an interesting idea that because like you say, Maya as a child, she shot the woodpecker, and the woodpecker was brought back to life through this healing power that Maya's mom had. But then she became the woodpecker was this harbinger, this
Hmm.
warning uh, signal. So anytime she'd be seeing a woodpecker staring at her, she's like, "Uh-oh,"
Right.
she's learned that there's a connection, there's a nature connection here that's looking out for family, right? Um, and it's interesting. Will how much of that will have rubbed off or stayed with the Kingpin? The Kingpin is just like in the Daredevil series. He's equal parts child. It's like he's like part child and part monster, and he's trying to resolve that in the Daredevil series. Yelling at, am I a monster? Like he wants to know, he doesn't know, and he's wanting to, but yet he has this childlike reaction
Hmm.
and this anger, and he'll like fly off the handle and become hugely violent. And this is all stemming from his past. So what this notion that Maya enters into his mind and tells him to put down the hammer, you know, hand me the hammer, please don't. And it's a break from this uh, loop that he's caught in, this loop of violence. He's got a break in it.
Mm.
Now, Vanessa kind of provided him a little bit of that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think this is an interesting bump on the road of the Kingpin, and will he take this on his path to becoming mayor of New York,
Hmm.
like in the books, or will they go that
And
route?
I think I'm going to correct myself because I think you're right there, Jamie, that, because the books, when he becomes mayor, he's doing this because he thinks he's doing good for the city of New York. Now, of course, we also, as we follow this, there's a lot of underlying stuff
Yes.
in terms of the criminal empire, right? But when he originally runs, he runs because I'm doing something. New York needs to be cleaned up, essentially, and he thinks he's doing good. So I really liked that after credits scene when I saw that, and I was just like, okay, this is going to open up a whole bunch of new avenues for not only the Kingpin character, but you've got Daredevil. We may eventually, who knows, get the Spider-Man Kingpin thing that a lot of people have been craving for. There's a lot of possibilities with that last end credit scene.
For sure. Yeah, that's a great tease.
Yeah.
Really exciting. Really,
Yeah.
what a great way to kind of lure you into, okay, there's as much story for the Kingpin going forward as there is Daredevil or some of the other characters there. You want to know, and Vincent D'Onofrio's
Oh,
Kingpin is just is so good,
Hmm.
is so great, and and this is such an interesting turn on him because he is this powerhouse, and when he shows up and behind the house when
yeah.
Maya
Hmm.
returns home that night, you can like, whoa, you can feel that visceral, oh my god, when she turns around and the Kingpin's there, he's not dead. He's standing right there. You get that, you feel that fear.
Yeah.
And she's a tough cookie. She's a tough character. But Wilson Fisk, like Hawkeye said, that's the guy that Hawkeye was afraid of this whole time. He is a serious customer, and he is a very, very powerful entity, physically very, very powerful. So I didn't want to see them go to the sort of the cheap route of having the Kingpin being physically defeated in some way, and they didn't.
No.
This is a completely different turn, where all of a sudden you could do something like that impactful to the Kingpin, and you don't know, you're not overwhelming him physically, you're overwhelming him emotionally. You're using these healing powers on him. I thought it was wonderful.
It's like what happened in The Grinch. His heart grew 3 sizes more, and he's and whether he likes it or not, right? That's going to affect him. I was curious to know what he brought for dinner. I think one of the most frustrating parts of the whole 5 episode run was he's like, I just wanted to have another family dinner, and he sat down and put the bag on the table, and she dumped the wine out, and he left. It's like, okay, I'm not gonna be able to soak that up with anything, so I'm out. He didn't, but I don't know what he brought to eat. Like, they didn't even get to the dinner part. But the fact that, yeah, that he just kind of showed up, and like like that's rarefied air to get FaceTime with the Kingpin. The fact that he came to Oklahoma, and was like physically there.
We all thought he was coming for vengeance, basically, right?
Completely, yeah. I didn't, or to give her an ultimatum, and really he was more.
He did.
Well, he did, yeah. And
come back with me and become basically Queenpin.
But it was an offer, but it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was an ultimatum. In that, like, I think he really wanted to bring her back into the fold, and really missed her as part of his family, despite the fact that he respected the fact that she shot him in the face. So that's Wilson.
Can I also say, though, that it's a testament to the people behind the cameras and the way they shot that to make the Kingpin look like the Kingpin's supposed to look, a very big man who he casts a huge shadow, and they did it so well. I've loved it since they introduced him in the Daredevil series. He's one of my favorite villains throughout this, and it's not just Vincent D'Onofrio does an amazing job, but the work they do to make him look and feel. And we go back to that. He shows up at her house. Wow, it's like, okay, holy crap, the Kingpin's here.
And this time around, it's so interesting to think, because Vincent D'Onofrio said this, that they have come up with this way to be able to, through the makeup and they can dress him up as the Kingpin now, whereas in the Daredevil shows he put on all that weight. He put on a lot of weight to do that, and he was saying that it's not easy to, and not good for you, to go to those extremes back and forth, to put on that much weight and then have to take it back off again. It's very difficult on your body. But Marvel came up with this way of a quality way to convincingly put on the pounds and put on the Kingpin. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I think I love that we got the white suit.
Oh yeah.
Can I also say this? I don't know if this is actually technology that exists yet, but if it doesn't, and whoever creates it, that eye thing that he sticked on her so you can actually watch as he's signing, I thought was just brilliant.
That had to be Stark tech, right? Like there was some we'll find out at some point, or the Vulture guy made it from Alien stuff. Like
yes, the Tinkerer. Maybe so. That's very interesting too. Yep, very neat.
So
of course, felt very Marvel.
Oh, yes, big time. Yeah. We're not going to have to wait long for this because we know he's in the Daredevil series here. Brent, there are a couple things that have come out. We know that Eldon Henson is reprising the Foggy Nelson role now, and they're also bringing back Karen Page to this. Yeah. And now there's talk that this may actually be what they're referring to as season 4 of Daredevil.
Well, certainly with the connections that they're drawing, I wouldn't be surprised now if this path, this direction that they're taking now, isn't something like that. I mean, I always liked the Born Again connection using that title. They get to have the meta aspect of that it's being done now over in Disneyland, right?
Yeah, right.
on Disney Plus. It's a restart, but at the same time, pulling from these various aspects of the stories and bringing the Punisher back, and him getting a reportedly a larger role than originally he had. The talk of Bullseye from the
Yeah,
original series coming back and being a part of this, and yeah, Karen Page and Foggy, yay.
yeah.
You got to have them, and the cast for that Daredevil series was just masterful. So the more that they can bring back and connect to that, the better.
So they've kind of put any rumors of a She-Hulk season 2 to rest
Yeah.
for now anyway. Doesn't sound like it's going to happen. Do you think that in an upcoming Daredevil they might maybe there might be a Jennifer Walters? Do you think that that might be in the cards just as a you know you don't get another season, but we'll at least
I don't think she's done.
yeah, like we're not done with She-Hulk. I mean, she's in the vicinity, and
We
they
could see her in the courtroom.
right.
Maybe will they do something fun like that? We could see Jennifer Walters in the courtroom, sure, and that would be cool, and that might be a good thing for them to do. But again, her comments, interestingly enough, saying that yeah, we blew our budget bad.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, and so and Marvel and in her take on the situation was like,
Yeah,
Disney was like, yeah, no thanks.
right.
You guys
Yeah.
cost way too much.
They
Uh, you know,
those are Deadpool bucks. Those fourth wall
Yeah.
things. They cost a lot of money.
A couple other things, Brent. The Thunderbolts seems to be losing actors, and now they've announced they've gained. It looks like Lawrence Fishburne and Rachel Weisz are going to be reprising their roles. One from obviously the Black Widow movie, and then Lawrence Fishburne from the Ant-Man series.
yeah,
Lose
will that
some,
be in
win
the
some.
will that be in the past? Will we be
Mm.
getting Goliath? I mean, we got to see some Goliath in the What If. It's the same guy, right?
Yeah.
But what will we get some Goliath here, or will we just get an appearance from him and his civilian character? Good question. And I think all the notions that we have with the Thunderbolts, and look, we're looking at Zemo, we're looking at Black Widow, Yelena, we're looking at these are characters that have some questionable past, and are being brought together to do some to act as a team, and we'll see what that brings. But the Thunderbolt aspect of it, they're going to cover, so there'll be some connection to Thunderbolt Ross. Obviously, we've got Harrison Ford reprising the role. So I mean, there's a lot of characters there. There's been an awful lot of rumors about the Sentry.
Apparently, Lewis Pullman is the new. He's confirmed to have boarded the project now. He'll be playing the Sentry.
So, and the whole Sentry angle makes me think of that first arc in the New Avengers, of Bendis's New
Yeah.
Avengers. That
Yes.
it's like they is this what they're going to do? Because if they do that, that's a good place to start.
You bet. Yeah. We'll see the raft again.
The raft,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
That would be huge.
it would be huge. It would be
So
great.
that was one of my favorite reads of the last 10 years was getting a hold of that New Avengers, because that was what really kind of explained a lot of the connections that were in the ones when we had the Netflix stuff, like I really did not know much about Luke Cage,
Right.
and I didn't really know much about I didn't much about anything really till those Guardians came along. So yeah, but that was one of the more exciting things to read. And you know what? It was because I think I talked about this last episode how I made the switch from DC to
Yes.
Marvel, thanks to the new 52. And like the timing was great for me to take on something else and a different take on a team. And they just had some really cool stories of things happening at that time. So yeah, I would love it if they and the Sentry was such a strange
Powerful character, though.
powerful character, and it was because I read a Sentry. I wasn't. There's a Sentry series where we're not quite sure if he exists, right? Like is it a drinking delusion? Is it a something? Is it in his head? That's one take on the Sentry, right? And then in not in Breakout, like he was the Sentry. They broke him out. That was the whole point, right?
Yeah, the Sentry is really an interesting character in that respect because of the nature of for everyone who read the comics for however many decades, you're reading all the characters interacting, but then all of a sudden the out of nowhere appears the Sentry.
Yeah.
And the Sentry suddenly then has warped reality and is now a part of all the histories, and it was appearing in people's memories of different things that happened in the Marvel universe stories, etc. And it will they go multiversal with this? Will this play a part of all of the weirdness that's happening prior to us getting a Secret Wars, where all of a sudden he's appeared, him and his alter ego. We'll get into that's a tease, and how that affects reality. It kind of fits into their multiverse stuff if they're going that route. We'll wait and see.
Yeah. Well, look, I love when we end on cliffhangers, and we've been once again. I do think that now that we've brought it up, the Sentry would make an excellent arc recap. It would be a real
Recap.
recap. He's not. We're not
We haven't seen him
recapping
yet.
him. We're not. He's not arced in our world, I guess. In the books, though. But yeah, it'd be great to get into that actually, and some of these kind of sort of reality moments that may or may rear their heads.
And I'd like to propose, if Brent's up for it and you're up for it, an arc recap on Wilson Fisk.
Oh, yeah. I guess we haven't done that. He's been around
Ooh.
enough now.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good one.
Well, that's it. A final word, Brent, on Echo and your hope on things to come.
I can't wait to see where we see her next. We know we will. Will it be a season 2, or will it be in something on the big screen like Kang or in Secret Wars? Can't wait to see where we will see her next. We know we will.
Awesome.
That was well said.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Brent, as always, for guiding us through another recap. And it's always fun to explore the uncharted stuff with you, the things that were new to you too, because I feel a little less lost in there. So to hear you say, well, I wonder what they're going to do with that is actually very reassuring. So as always, folks, thanks for tuning in. We know you love our Marvel shows. That's why we keep on doing them. And I'm sure we'll have another one coming down the pipe.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Brent. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, guys.